Well, hello, Andrew here again. Just changing a number. This is episode 100, I think, and 27. So today we're having another. No, we're not. We're continuing from what happened in our last episode, where we looked at the transfiguration. So yesterday we considered that, and today we're picking the narrative up at Matthew chapter 1, verses 9 to 13. As they were coming down the mountain, now this is Jesus with Peter and the two brothers James and John. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." And the disciples asked him, "Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" He replied, "Elijah is indeed coming and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him. But they did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man is about to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. I'm not absolutely sure what this passage is all about. You may have a better idea than I do. I'm trying to sort of sit with it and kind of unpick it. It's kind of a wee bit unclear to me. And I wondered, were the disciples confused by seeing Elijah and wondering when he was going to appear in Jesus' real-time or sort of real-world timeline, particularly as Jesus was now talking about that timeline soon coming to an end. They hadn't seen this Elijah before, and they were thinking time is running short. If he's the forerunner, if he's got to appear before the Messiah, we haven't seen him. Perhaps that's what this is about. It would indicate that they hadn't seen Elijah before, and now he had a face, and their expectations of seeing him in the flesh had grown. It's like when we see a movie of a favourite book and are presented with representations of the characters that we had in our mind's eye imagination, but now we're given a certain way of seeing them. The imagined image is now replaced by one we've seen on the screen, and provided that is that there are a number of crossover similarities between the character we have in our heads and the way the character is portrayed. So, for example, Gandalf of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings fame. For me, he will always conjure up the face of Ian McKellen, because there's a kind of consistency between the two. The actor that they use to portray Gandalf and the character of Gandalf and the way that Gandalf is, the way that Gandalf behaves, the kind of strength of personality and kindness all mixed together come through the face and the experience of Sir Ian McKellen. On the other hand, Jack Reacher of Lee Child's novel fame. You realise that Jack Reacher's been a huge number of novels written by Lee Childs on Jack Reacher novels. New Zealanders are the world's per capita biggest consumer of Jack Reacher novels. Anyway, there's this sense of disconnect between the character in the movie and the one that most of us have in our heads, the one that is we see in our heads because of what's described by the novels. Now, while Tom Cruise, who plays Jack Reacher in a number of movies, may possess the energy and the intensity for the role, his rather diminutive height of 5'7" kinda misses the mark for the character, which is consistently described by Childs as 6'5". That is a huge disparity. And you notice small differences in heights between individuals. 10 inches is a large disconnect. The disconnect for many of us is just too great. And Jesus is similarly pointing to the reality that There are significances which transcend appearances. Elijah has come and has gone. In the person of John the Baptist, who came in the spirit of Elijah. John the Baptist was an Elijah-like character. He wasn't channeling Elijah, he wasn't Elijah, but he came in the spirit and strength and character of Elijah. And he wasn't recognized for who and what he was. Jesus is warning that the same thing is about to happen to him. He's not recognized for who he really is. And those who should recognize him, the religious, the informed, the scholars, the theologians, will all soon be baying for his blood. They are looking for someone who sounds and looks more like them. Jesus comes along looking and sounding like a country yokel. His accent betrays him as having come from the back blocks. Galileans were not highly regarded by the educated, the sophisticated, the elite. All countries have their areas of despise. Let's call it that. We're allowed to use a word like that as an adjective for the intelligentsia. And Jesus obviously comes from the worst possible stock. Because he doesn't measure up to their expectations of what he's supposed to look and sound like, and how in their minds he's supposed to behave, they cannot receive him. But Jesus is pointing beyond appearances. He's pointing beyond what the ear hears. He's pointing to something of the essence and of the heart. And we're being invited to see God at work in surprising ways. But to notice where decency, where generosity, where courage, where honour is at work, even though it might not come in the form that we expect. I don't know how many of you have watched the Star Wars movies. The very first one that I watched, Lynn and I were on our honeymoon. We were in Napier, I think, and we watched the second one. We went to the theatre. We hadn't seen the first one. It didn't make any sense to us at all. It was The Empire Strikes Back. Apparently it was a great movie. And apparently of all those movies are regarded as among the greatest of westerns. It's a space western because it follows the western format apparently. Anyway, you'll have been picked up by now probably that I kind of have a love affair with sci-fi, and it's absolutely true, I do. There's lots of things about sci-fi that have a lot to teach us. Anyway, that's another story. We can talk about that another day. Anyway, in this movie, Luke Skywalker, the central character, has crash landed on an overgrown, mangrovey, wet, jungle-like planet where he is told that Yoda lives. Yoda, the great Jedi Master, who can train him to become a Jedi Knight. Luke encounters the small green being who speaks in a strange English syntax, whom Luke finds really quite annoying, and is very surprised later to discover that this same being is the famed Yoda. This is not what he was expecting. It becomes clear that this Yoda has the goods and can teach Luke what he needs to learn. Yet it takes him a while to get the idea that the strange little being could be all that he was painted to be. God can show up in unexpected ways. Here's the thing. The same thing happens today. And we're invited to keep our antennae tuned and being open to noticing what is it that God is doing. And it's by his fruit, or the fruit, that you'll recognize, that you'll see what God is doing. God bless you.